Hello everyone, I'm Donovan. Welcome to Build 2018. I'm here with my guest Abel, and we're going to be talking about DevOps in Azure. Welcome to the show, Abel.
Thank you so much.
So tell them what you do here.
My name is Abel Wang. I'm a senior cloud developer advocate specializing in DevOps.
Specializing in DevOps, you look familiar to me. I'm not sure why.
We may have come across each other once or twice in our careers.
That's right. Actually, I think you report to me. I think I'm your manager. Might be why you're familiar to me.
That's right.
So talk to me about Azure and DevOps, and how do we do that here at Microsoft, and what offerings that we have for that?
Well, I've got to tell you, for DevOps into Azure, VSTS is the ultimate DevOps solution.
I completely agree with you. I think I've heard you say that before.
Once or twice, but it really is the best DevOps solution into Azure. Now, of course, Azure is a completely open platform.
It is.
Which means you can use any DevOps tools that you want to get into Azure.
Right, so you don't have to use a product from VSTS. If I'm already invested in Jenkins, for example, I don't have to abandon Jenkins to be able to go deploy into Azure.
Absolutely.
Right,
absolutely.
so I think that's really important for people to realize is that we don't care what tools you're using. We don't even care what language you're programming in.
Yep.
I mean, we offer app service, we offer Docker, and talk to me about this new DevOps project. I demoed it in the keynote, but I know that you've had a lot of experience with it as well.
Well, I've worked with it a lot because even though I specialize in DevOps, nobody really likes setting up pipelines over and over again, right? So what you can do with the Azure DevOps Project is with just a couple of clicks, you get to set up a full end-to-end CI/CD pipeline in whatever language that you want.
Great, so
super convenient.
And also, so once it's built, am I stuck with what's built, or can I customize it? What's the story there?
When you've created Azure DevOps Project, everything just works, right? There's nothing for you to change, it just works. However, if you wanted to go in and customize things, you absolutely can. It's just VSTS, which means the source code, Git repo. You want to change the repo? Not a problem. You want to put your code in the repo? Not a problem. The build, you know the build is a task runner, right? So to customize it, you would just add or remove tasks, super easy to customize, and same with the release. And it flows from your code all the way onto Azure, CI/CD, couple of clicks.
Great, and I also noticed too, because you're using VSTS as the backend, you're going to get all the power of the hosted agents, for example. So I can run on Linux, I can run on Mac, and I can run on Windows without installing any of the infrastructure whatsoever. I can literally just go ahead and say, build my Linux container, and we're going to build it on a Linux machine for you.
Right.
Okay.
Right.
So what if I actually have to deploy to something that's not, I don't know, how do I say this? I need tools on my agent that aren't on the hosted agent. Are there any options for that?
Absolutely. You can create your own agent as well. You literally download a file, run a script, and bam, you're ready to go. And then you can install the script on your own machine, whether it's in the cloud, whether it's behind your firewall, in front of your firewall, it literally doesn't matter. And if you create your own private agent, that means you can load whatever software that you want or need onto that specific agent.
Right, so if you wanted to use beta bits, if you wanted to use something that's pre-production, which we're probably never going to put on our hosted agents because that's an infrastructure we're sharing with everyone, but you can now have a private agent, install whatever bits you want on it, and build whatever you want.
Correct.
I think I got pinged the other day on Twitter, and one of the people said, Donovan, I have VS 2008 project that I need to build, right? Exactly what I said too. Says, how do I do this? I said, you stand up a private agent. And he was like, oh, this is a great idea. He installed Visual Studio 2008 on a private agent, and then VSTS was happy to go off and build that. So I love that power and flexibility of, if you want to use our infrastructure in the cloud, it's there for you. If you need to do something special or very specific, you can actually install our agent on-prem in the cloud on any platform that you want as well.
Any platform, whether it's Windows, whether it's Linux, or even Mac.
Correct. And Mac is important because we have a lot of people who are now doing mobile and wanting to make sure that they rub a little DevOps on their mobile pipelines, right, and make them better. And what's interesting there is you have to have a Mac. If you're going to do iOS, you have to have a Mac. And I think it was Connect last year where we announced that we now have hosted Macs in VSTS, which was huge because it just changed the game for us.
Yeah, we are the only cloud vendor that gives you agents in every single platform, Windows, Linux, and now also Mac.
You and I go all the world saying any language, any platform, and I love now that that is so much easier for us to say because we now have those hosted Macs in the cloud as well.
Yeah.
So let's turn back over to Azure. Azure has a lot more than just Docker containers and VMs. We have serverless and functions and logic apps. Are we able to use the DevOps tools that we have to deploy all those different types of applications, or are we focused just on containers and app service, for example?
You can use these DevOps tools to deploy anything into anything. Remember, at the end of the day, the build and deploy, it's a task runner, right? It runs one task after another. So ultimately, we always say this, right? If you can do it from the command line, you can get VSTS to do this as well.
Right, I actually extend that sometimes too, because I'm a firm believer, because it just runs whatever you want on any command line, Mac, Windows, or Linux.
Right.
But also, if you can basically access it through a REST API, that opens up a whole new world of possibilities, because from Bash I can call a REST API, from PowerShell I can call a REST API, and now anything I can do from a command line or through a REST API now becomes accessible to me using our build system and deploying off into Azure.
We all say it's fully extensible, right? And I don't think people realize this, but we really mean it's fully extensible. Whatever you need it to do, we can get it to do that. And it's not even that hard to do.
It's not at all, and what's so crazy is that it's like no one believes us.
Yeah, until we show them. Right?
Exactly. I remember I was going to South Africa, and they asked me to come, and I was like, I'm not coming unless you let me speak to open source developers. They're like, what do you mean open source developers? I mean that my tools work everywhere. Why are you only letting me talk to .NET on Windows? We love our .NET on Windows people, but we got to make sure that they realize that we can actually work on any language and any platform, and when they see it, their jaws drop, because it's like, wow, I really didn't know that you had this power and capability, but we do. It's amazing.
Yeah, I love that story, because I have the exact same experience with, once again, Java devs.
Yes.
You know, I had to go into a Java user group one time, and they totally didn't believe me. And I literally said, give me your code. Where's your code sitting at? GitHub? And they said, yeah. I said, point me to it. And I set it up, used a Maven build, couple clicks, I started building their app. That entire room, their jaws just dropped and said, how do we get a hold of this and start using this?
Exactly. What's funny is the way that you get a hold of it is you just go to visualstudio.com and start using it for free.
You get a free
start
account.
an Azure trial for free, and you can get started. That's crazy.
Yep.
So we have a new guest to the show. His name is Rupesh. Rupesh, thank you for joining us.
Thank you.
We're talking about DevOps and Azure and how they work together. And we talked briefly about the DevOps projects, which I know you know very intimately. Can you tell us about some things that are coming on the roadmap for that? I demoed the AKS support that we have in the keynote now, but are there any things coming in the future that you can tell us about that's going to be in the DevOps projects?
Yes, so we are focusing on getting more and more services into the DevOps. So we just added virtual machines for Windows and AKS cluster, as you know. We would like to expand that to like MySQL database and also like virtual machines for Linux and deploying Java apps or Node apps to Linux and so on. So our focus is to kind of increase the breadth as of now and cover as much Azure services as possible. And we're also working in the system to make it as more extensible, so that if teams wants to come in and add their services to participate in DevOps projects, they should be able to do that as well.
I see. So
that would be fantastic.
Because I noticed that the number of languages keeps increasing, right? Because I've demoed it several times now, and at the keynote I was able to say Ruby and Go. I was like, oh wow, I didn't say that the last time I demoed this product, because those weren't on that. So it's nice to see we're not only extending the languages that you support, but also the targets in Azure that you support. So I would hope that serverless is going to be on the roadmap as a target endpoint for us as well going forward, right?
Absolutely, yeah.
Great. And what about maturing the sample applications? I've given you a hard time because I give them feedback very candid. I'm a big DevOps guy. And I even said it in the keynote yesterday. This is a great sample app for kicking the tires.
Yep.
When you start adding databases and things like that, are you going to then mature the sample a little bit more as well? Can you tell us more about what the sample might look like?
So we just added the database support. Now SQL database support is there. So now instead of like everything going on a single PaaS service or a single VM, so now you can have multi-tiered apps set up there. So you can have database running in with Azure SQL or SQL PaaS services, and then you can also have web apps deployed to your VMs, and they can be wired up together so that they can communicate, and you can have your application running like a real complex multi-tiered apps running there.
All right, great. So I'm going to ask you a question that I actually was asked the other day. I answered it off of my optimism that I think this would work, but I want to make sure it was an accurate answer. I go through the wizard with the DevOps projects. It's going to use a hosted agent.
Yes.
If I were to go back into VSTS where I can customize everything and point it at a private agent, my dashboard inside of Azure is still going to work the same?
It's going to work the same.
Perfect. Yeah, because the question was, hey, I kind of have some special things I need to do, and Abel and I just talked about the fact the flexibility of a private agent is huge.
Yes.
I wrote an entire blog post saying private agents are a benefit, not a liability, because it gives you so much freedom to go and use beta bits, use alpha bits, put on tools that we're never going to install on our hosted agents for whatever reasons. And I wanted to make sure that I can leverage the convenience of a DevOps project to lay down that framework for me, but then go back in and use my own private agent for whatever reason, queuing time, speed, size, performance. There's lots of benefits to a private agent. And it's nice to make sure that I still get to keep that rich dashboard in the Azure portal, because that blade is so powerful. It's all the power of Visual Studio Team Services and all my assets from Azure blended into one awesome blade. I mean, the fact that I have telemetry from application insights letting me know the health of my application. I can see my commits, my builds, and my releases. It demos so well. And I wanted to make sure that I could go back in and even tweak it a little bit further, but not lose that richness that I have.
Absolutely. So you hit it right on the nail. So like you have the initial version configured through the dashboard, DevOps Project dashboard, and once you have configured, the full power of VSTS is behind you. So you can go modify the pipeline. You can have like as many like additional steps in there. You can run it on a private agent. Maybe you want to have certificates installed on the private agents. So you can do all of that. You can customize the workflow, and the dashboard still is going to reflect the pipeline what you initially configured. So everything, the complete power of VSTS is with you there, behind you, and helping you to kind of grow the pipeline into a fully fledged DevOps pipeline for your application.
Awesome. So you said something earlier that it's kind of piqued my interest here. You talked about the extensibility. So talk to me about where are some of the points that I'm going to be able to plug in my own custom logic or custom template.
So we started off with like kind of a hard-coded way of doing the application, but now we soon realized like, hey, we will not be able to scale for every Azure service and every programming language out there. So we need to have an ability to kind of make it completely extensible. So that's where we kind of went back to the dashboard and kind of redesigning the whole structure now. So with that, what will be like, for example, I have my team, like maybe like I am Azure ML or IoT, like I want to have DevOps experience for my services in Azure. So I'll be able to just provide the manifest and the metadata with that and the template which are required for my build and release definitions, and boom, like your templates will going to light up there, and your release and build and definitions will be completely configured with that metadata, and you will be able to like add additional services as quickly as possible.
So I'd also be able to add additional environments too, because that's one thing that some of my feedback has been. The DevOps projects are great. They're a perfect way to get started, and I can go back in and customize it. But to be perfectly honest, and I like to be brutally honest with you and with the viewers as well, very few of us deploy to one environment, right? It's usually a progression of dev through QA, QA to production, maybe even a staging environment inside that allows us to get that confidence and that repeatability and that muscle memory that we have to develop to have the confidence to go into production with this automation. Because we've all met customers where they'll automate up into production, but then they won't automate into production. They manually deploy it, which completely defeats the purpose of this previous automation. So with the DevOps projects only going to one environment, what are the plans to extend that to multiple environments as well?
Yes, so the extensibility, one is in terms of services and programming languages, and the other extensibility is like ability to kind of evolve the pipeline into a fully fledged functional pipeline. So you'll be able to add additional environments to it, and right now we also have a limitation in terms of you always ask for like a new team project, so we want to kind of enable that for an existing team project as well. So,
very good.
So these are the extensibility points we are thinking of, and we're going to make it happen soon.
Oh, very good. Well, we're looking forward to getting on stage and demoing those new features for you as well.
Absolutely. So you guys will keep honest. So.
Oh, I do. I sometimes I'm worried that I keep you too honest, and you might get tired of some of the emails that I send. But it's all out of love.
Yes.
Just remember.
Absolutely.
We just want to protect our customers as well.
So I'm super excited about this extensibility. I'd love to hear a little bit more, just because there are so many times that I've worked with these DevOps projects where I'm like, if I could create some type of template and maybe add a couple more steps in my build or release pipelines, is that something we can do now? Like really customize it?
You can do it today. Yeah. So
that's fantastic.
Yeah, you can just open the build definition or the release definition there, and just configure the steps as you would like to, and still continue to work the way it was configured initially.
I see. Fantastic.
So another feature that I showed that kind of relates to this is the release gates. And I'd like to spend some time. Are you comfortable talking about the release gate functionality?
Sure, yeah.
All right, perfect. So for those who didn't get to see the keynote, the way that release gates work is it basically allows us to automate safe deployment. Safe deployment is a practice where you deploy your code into one environment and you monitor it. This is a production environment, and you monitor the code through several different aspects to make sure that it's healthy before you then rinse and repeat that deployment into another environment. Generally, the environments have more and more customers involved in it, and it's called safe deployment, because if anything bad happens, you're able to then roll that back. Historically, monitoring the telemetry, checking for issues, has all been a manual process, one that a human being is actually going off and running, and then they make the go, no-go decision. With release gates, we now can automate that. We can have it running queries for us automatically. We can have it monitoring alerts inside of our application insights. We can even have it watching the Twitter feed and see if there's any sentiment analysis that says, hey, people are tweeting negative stuff about your app, you probably should stop this. Now, from what I understand, I haven't done this yet, you should be able to, you can write your own
Yes.
as well. So that's another extension point when it comes to building out our pipelines.
Yes, today like we have generic functions like Azure functions
Sure.
or REST APIs as a gates there, so we plan to enable like custom gates, but that's kind of little far away from the backlog.
Okay.
So, but in terms of like having like custom functionality, I think the Azure functions is out there, so you can always have your own Azure function and configure that as a gate and use it. And it could be on like your own service, and you could just call that as a REST API, and that is available to you as well.
Perfect. Yeah, I've used that one because one of the gates that I had is I was deploying an entire system who had a back end that I kind of want to make sure was healthy. And I basically was pinging it with the release gate, calling that REST API, making sure I got 200s for a consistent amount of time before I then released the gate and make sure that the code could go forward as well.
Because you're using REST API or Azure Functions, you literally can do anything. Right?
Yeah, you kind of already have that flexibility that I'm asking for versus having to drop in a completely custom type of gate. You can leverage the fact that we now like you call any REST API, call any function that you want. You basically now have that functionality already. I was just trying to figure out how I can package that functionality, for example, in an extension. I want to give you gates, I want to give you tasks, I want to give you dashboards, I want to give you widgets. I basically want to have this extension that you install that just gives you this wealth of back.
But you can, right? You can package up your gates as an extension and put it in the marketplace now.
That's what I was asking. So
It's not yet there, but since they are using the same underlying like tasks as an executable engine, so it is going to work. So we have the building blocks already in there. Like we'll have to do a little bit more work to make sure that all that metadata is captured rightly, and you should be able to expose it. So that's going to come, but not yet.
Oh, I won't press you for a date. I know how that happens, so I won't be that mean to you on pressing for dates. So another thing that I was interested in is we're talking to a lot of our customers, and when we're trying to deploy into Azure, a lot of our customers are comfortable with deploying their front end. And now we're getting a lot of questions about deploying their back ends as well. We have SSDT, support for DAC packs, that will allow us to deploy into Azure SQL. There's other databases inside of Azure. So what are we doing to help our customers deploy into MySQL, Postgres, Cosmos DB, and things like that?
Yeah, MySQL, we are already having a task out there in the catalog, so very soon we'll be adding it in Azure DevOps Project as well.
Oh, perfect.
So it's going to light up very soon. So we are soon, we also realized like while we're working with Cosmos DB, like you can do that today. So because it's like almost like coming as code, you don't have to have any special task out there to manage your Cosmos DB instances. So that's available today. But we are thinking like if there is anything special we need to do, so we can go back and add that support. So we're working through that. Yes, we'll expand soon to the other databases which are available out there. So it's happening as we speak.
Okay, great. So are those other databases, they're already accessible through things like Liquid Blaze and Flyway, and there's some other open source. Are we writing tasks that are simply going to wrap those, or are these tasks that you're writing yourselves internally here at Microsoft?
So yes, it's a very good question, Donovan. So like when you look at the tasks, like for example, when you look at Docker or even like MySQL, we wanted it to be as lightweight as possible so that you can leverage the power of the underlying tool completely. So instead of like we becoming the black box on top of it and exposing only like a limited capability. So we are kind of taking a dual approach depending upon what's the kind of sophistication the task and the end user might need. So depending on that, we are actually figuring out like what the design of the task should be. So like yes, so for all these tasks like MySQL and Docker and Kubernetes and all, so we are kind of leveraging the complete power of the underlying tool and the platform. So we'll give you like a little wrapper on top of that and expose the complete capability. Whereas when it comes to like something like app service, which is like our own platform, so we know like what's the best practice the developers needs to follow. So we are making sure that all of that is kind of ingrained into the task definition. So users don't have to think very hard to kind of use that task in their workflow. So we are kind of having a
It's like it's one of those perfect "it depends" answers, right? It depends on the scenario, on which way we're going to go and implement that task, either wrapping something that already exists or writing it from scratch ourselves as well. Because I know you have a lot of experience writing tasks, so do I, and one of the other team members we have is Damian Brady, who wrote the Octopus Deploy extension. So we're big fans of the extensibility, which is why we're kind of maybe even getting a little bit too low for some people and wondering how we're going to implement that. Because I was going to go wrap Flyway and Liquid Base myself. Then I heard about the MySQL task. I'm like, okay, I think I'm going to pump the brakes, because if you're already down that road, then I don't think I want to duplicate it. So I was just curious on how you're going to do that.
While we actually do like kind of end up writing tasks for all these technologies, we accept like contributions. So our community is just there for marketplace, is just there for that. So we find today like there are like a lot of tasks which are coming through all the marketplace community. So that's kind of very encouraging. So it kind of gives us confidence that yes, yeah, this is what we would like to see that in our continuous delivery pipelines, right?
Right, and the marketplace isn't the only way that you can contribute though, because our entire task library is in GitHub.
Yes.
So have you actually accepted pull requests from the community for bug
Absolutely,
fixes?
yeah. So we do get users like looking at, hey, I need this additional option in this task, and here is a pull request. Like, go ahead, can you please accept this? And yeah, why not? So yes, go ahead and do it. Yeah.
Yeah, it's very cool. 'Cause I remember the first time I had anything contributed, but it was like kind of like a weird way. I wrote the SQL Server deployment package, and I wrote the Docker ones, like V1 of both of those, because I was trying to get ready for a demo. And I couldn't wait for the task to be written, so I wrote them, and then Jamie's like, yes, we'll take them, and then they end up in the box.
Yes.
That's a completely different way of contributing than what you're describing. So I want to make sure everyone's clear that you can go to GitHub right now,
Yes.
and you can see how every single one of our tasks are written and actually contribute back some of the features. And that's funny, because I've said that to a lot of our customers too, like, Donovan, why doesn't it do this? I'm like, why don't you go make it do this, right? You don't have to wait on us, right? That's the beautiful thing about having an extensible platform like we do, is you don't have to wait on us anymore. I mean, we're all developers working on a development tool. If you know how to go do that, go wrap it, either put it in the marketplace for all of us to encourage and use, or go ahead and submit it as a pull request and let's add it to the package. Yeah, this is fantastic information, and I get really excited about DevOps, and especially DevOps to Azure, because when you combine VSTS and Azure, I said it on the stage, right? Like magical things start to happen, and it's really neat to see how we use it internally as well, because VSTS is deployed using VSTS.
Yes.
And a lot of people don't realize that we're actually using the tools that we sell to you ourselves, and I think that's made them so much better.
Yes, absolutely. So sometimes we initially thought like, hey, can we even do this? Yes. Yeah. Then yeah, it's there working for us. Like,
Yeah.
and that's one of the interesting thing. Like when we configured our pipeline, we are on the very first rings, like SU0, like that's a scale unit. That's where all our services are. So we dogfood it first before we actually get to roll it out to all the customers. So we test it fully, and only when we are happy that yes, it can go to the further rings, that's when it gets promoted. So yes, out there.
And I think that's also, I always joke that it really helps the quality of the product. Because if we mess up ourselves
Yes.
first, right? And it has developers going off and being a little bit more defensive in their programming, making sure that they write those unit tests, making sure you don't carry a lot of technical debt. And I encourage a lot of our customers, if you can afford to do that, it's really a powerful motivator to make sure that your code is of the highest quality before it gets pushed to our customers. And it's simply going to reassure your customers that you even trust the products. I always joke that historically, I used to be nervous as a seller back in 2015, 2013, and if they asked me if we used it, right? Because the truth was we weren't. And I was like, man, I hope they don't ask me if we use it ourselves. And then I think it was Satya at TR19 said, we have to stop living this fake life where we would write software for others that we would not use ourselves. And it was like he spoke directly to me, because I knew he was talking about VSTS. And now we have the VSTS team using it, the Windows team is using it, Office is coming, Xbox is already using it. So now we're going to have this one engineering system that allows all of Microsoft to be able to develop in a very common and consistent way. And we're going to learn from some of our internal customers are the largest customers we're ever going to have.
Exactly. So
Yeah.
the amount of scale, like when we are actually even designing any new feature, we think in terms of the scale it has to meet, and our own internal deployments are so huge and so vast. So first it has to meet up that standards, only then it gets rolled out to the other rings. So yes, absolutely.
Could you tell us a little bit, you talk about scale, just what type of scale are we talking about, for instance, like with the Windows team or the Xbox team?
I won't even go to Windows, like our own team, like for example, like VSTS.
Yeah.
So we have probably like every minute there is like some CDP definition which is running continuously. And we have like our production deployment has at least, I think, if not, I'm not wrong, 18 plus environments in there. So we, for every region, and we have like multiple rings out there, and it is happening like every day. And maybe like if I have to pull out a number, we probably do like few thousands of deployments every day, and like that kind of multiplies for week and month and so on. So it's amazing, like the thing stands up.
It's 600 pull requests a day is what Manil was shared with me, right? Like 600 pull requests, running over 77,000 unit tests each time. It's staggering. And it's funny because I'll get on stage, I'll pull up our live VSTS. No matter where I am in the world, no matter what time zone it is, no matter what day it is, there's a pull request running. And it's just massive to see that. So I want to thank you guys for coming on the show and sharing with some of the cool things that we're already doing today with Azure and DevOps. And I'm excited to hear and have you back when we start to see some of the new stuff that we've been teasing them with that's coming out as well. So
Thank you.
I hope you guys are enjoying Build 2018, and I will actually see you here in just a little bit. We're going to have another fun show about DevOps with a whole new panel of guests. Thank you so much for watching.
Thank you.
Thank you.